Hello and welcome to Warcraft Daily for today, the 27th of May 2013. In today's news we have a developer interview with Icy Veins and a whole bunch of blue tweets. Overall there's not a giant amount of posts and that kind of thing because we're just fresh off the weekend. So to kick it off we have the developer interview. Now there's a whole bunch of class specifics that I'm not going to go over. Essentially it's pretty boring, it's only really applicable to 1/10 of the people watching, so you can check that out on like MMO Champion or just anywhere that's covering the interview. Now, the first thing they talked about is class balance, and they said that they're going to make another pass on talents in patch 5.4. This is to buff the unappealing talents. It seems like a part of their sort of crusade to make every single talent option viable, and that's pretty good. Of course, there's always going to be one that's better, for the damage ones, I suppose, because it just comes down to maths. For utility, I think it is good the way what they're doing. It gives lots of people different options. I know as a hunter I've got quite a few nice utility options that sort of actually just depend on how I like to play the game, so I think that's actually pretty damn cool. And they also say that they like the balance between melee and ranged in Throne of Thunder, which is pretty interesting because it always used to be the way that there'd be a fight which would heavily favour melee, one that would heavily favour ranged, but they like the way some are a little bit stronger in each fight, but overall it's pretty balanced, and they've seen that in raid representation, which is sort of a very important stat. They've also said that recent changes mean that ranged is nearly as good as melee in movement fights. I know there's a lot of classes which have glyphs, things like that, so they can cast while moving. Hunters, as an example, doesn't matter if you're a hunter and you're moving, you're still doing your full damage. They've said that they might actually give melee another niche that they're good at, other than movement, so it'll be interesting to see if they follow through on that and what that niche would be. They've also said that no classes are being excluded from heroics. That's heroic raiding, of course, and this is a very good sign because the heroic raiders are the people who don't really, they don't really care about the people playing the class. They care about what damage, what healing, whatever they can bring to the raid, and if no classes are being excluded, this means essentially that there are viable ways to play every class at the highest level, which is very good. They also say that they find that healer representation is better in 25-man, or 25-player, raiding than in 10-player, which is interesting, and, well, I don't know. There's not really much you can say about that one. The next thing that they talked about is triple spec. Of course, triple spec was kind of not leaked, but there was some data mine stuff from the PTR. It turned out not being in there, but as it turns out, that data mine stuff is because they were fiddling around with it in the PTR. So the devs said that tri-spec was actually mainly used for keeping sets of action bars in their testing, and they felt that the better way to sort of accomplish the need, or at least the perceived need, of triple spec was to replace that with an action bar saving system, which would accomplish that goal. So essentially you'd have sets of action bars. Honestly, I'd still prefer triple spec because it gives more people the most customization possible. I know there are 3 specs I would like to use. I'd like to have a BM PvP spec, a survival PvP spec, and a survival PvE spec. Can't do that without doing lots of chopping and changing. So yeah, I think that would be nice, but whatever. It sort of does work pretty well at the minute. They've also said that if the Mists of Pandaria talent system was in before dual spec was added, then it would probably just have been scrapped in favour of action bar saving. And I think that's actually sort of terrible. Because dual spec was massive, it added so much freedom to the game. If you're a hybrid class, it means you don't have to respec yourself every time you want to do a different role. Like, I remember back in the day, it was shit that you had to do that, so I don't really know what they're on about there. I have to disagree. Now, they've actually said that 4th specs would they'd involve too much learning and time from players, and I think that's a pretty valid concern. You have to remember that of the 8 million people that play this game, a lot of them are sort of not that, I say not that good, I mean, that's not what they find fun in the game, and that's fair enough. So yes, I sort of agree with the first point. They also said that it adds a massive amount of work for Blizzard, and I think it does. I mean, look what adding one class did in Wrath. DKs were weirdly balanced for a very long time, and I actually think that if they added a new spec to every class, it's the first time they've done that, it would just fuck up the game. Balance would be weird. I don't think it would be good. So overall, I agree with that decision. Next is the Brawlers Guild. They said it's about as popular as they expected. That's pretty cool, and that players who can't kill a boss usually return after getting better gear, which I guess is a little bit self-explanatory, but oh well. So, yes, there we go. On to blue tweets. Sorry for the pause there. Actually, I looked at Audacity and I saw that it hadn't recorded anything and it was just a graphical glitch, so phew. Minor heart attack averted. So, the tweets. First thing that they talked about was just some general stuff. They like the RPMM trinket system. They said like it rewards skilled players pretty well. So when your trinkets pop or something, you can really capitalize on that if you're paying attention, which is pretty good. They also responded to a warrior player saying that armor penetration will not come back. I think that's good. We don't need more stat bloat. And they said that they don't want to they don't want to make it seem that it takes like massively less time for ults. Their argument was if you had one player with one character and another player with 5, it would be kind of dumb if the person with 5 could level, sort of do all their ults in like next to no time, and I think that's definitely fair. I think they perhaps need to make it a little bit less grindy for ults, but not a massive amount. So yes, more things like buffing the Valor gain, stuff like that, I think are what's needed. Next up, we have some PvP talk. They said the normal Throne of Thunder had a strange difficulty curve, with hard on being too hard. And right now, post all the hotfixes, nerfs and stuff, they're actually quite happy with the overall difficulty level. They said the difference between 10 and 25 man causes them a little bit of a problem because it gives the same rewards, yet in terms of sort of how hard the players have to work, because 25 man has more heroic raiders and that kind of thing, it's kind of easy to them, but 10 has more more casual players, so it feels harder to them. So essentially, 25 and 10, 25 feels easy to its audience and 10 feels hard to its audience, and then it's quite hard to balance, and this is mainly because of the same eye level. I think Ghostcrawler actually said that he wouldn't mind, or sort of contemplating the split item level system that Wrath had. I don't think that would be good because there's just something very messy about it. It also meant that you had to be, to be optimal, you had to run the place in 25 and 10 man. And finally, they said that Throne of Thunder, it's been fixed in terms of difficulty. They are happy that these are sort of like the final changes have been made, and this is how it's going to stay in terms of difficulty, which I think is good because it's a pretty good difficulty level. The next thing they talked about is LFR. It's actually the final thing. And they've said that they want to fix the disconnect between players that LFR gives. At the end of the day, other players are just a means to a goal. They're a number that does damage or a number that heals. There's zero social interaction that's meaningful there. How they fix that, I don't know. I think it's an inherent problem with LFR. They've also said that the larger item level difference between LFR and normal was to make LFR less important to normal raiders. This is definitely true. I hardly ever run LFR now, so fair enough. They've also said that the problem with 10-person LFR is that one weak link in the chain would kill everyone and would be far more noticeable, and that's definitely true. I think 10-man LFR would be a complete clusterfuck. And finally, to round off today's show, they think that LFR has become some players' endgame, and they think it's actually better than them having nothing to do but go and level another alt. So, fair enough. That's it, actually. Hopefully we'll get some more substantial news rather than just talking soon enough, but you do have to remember we're just off the back of a new patch. Of course, with the development cycle they're in now, it wouldn't surprise me if we were hearing about 5.4 PTRs in the next week or two. So that's it for the show. Please like if you like and subscribe if you want to see more. Yes, I've been me, you've been you, and I'm leaving. Goodbye.